All right, just finished first practice. Went kind of the way I thought it would be. It was pretty good effort. It was a little warm, but nothing that we can't handle. But by end of practice, we had a dozen guys, cramping up a little bit and, a little dehydrated. And so good lesson for our guys to make sure they stay hydrated after practice, before practice, during practice, and any time in between so they can get through our practice. I mean, it wasn't even 2 hours, but it was good. I thought we got some good stuff done and pretty active defensively, and it was a good first day.
So, Rich, with the ability to work out in the summer now, how much further along are you? Even you got a lot of new players. Do you have to do as much install? Where are you in terms of?
Yeah, the schematic part of it is it like an echo or something, or isn't it like? Is it on speakers? Okay, I don't know if we needed that, but I just noticed that. I mean, back to your question, what was it? Oh, schemes. Yeah, I think there's no question being able to get with our guys, at least in the month of June. July was kind of vacation time, but at least in June, we got a lot of scheme work put in as opposed to normal when we couldn't even ask our strength coaches what was going on. And the strength staff did a good job. I think our guys are a little bigger, a little stronger, a little faster, in decent shape, but they're never going to be in game shape through summer workouts. Just the intensity and the way we go about doing things. So we'll need August camp to get that done. But I thought I did a nice job today, scheme-wise, of most of the guys understanding what they're supposed to do for the first day.
What do you want to get accomplished these next 2-3 practices before you get pads?
Well, we have the first 2 weeks, we got to do a lot of evaluation with so many new guys and being the first year and all that. We've got to have a lot of evaluations being taken place throughout the course of practice. And then obviously we still got to teach the fundamental part of it and teach schemes. So, typically your first camp together is the most difficult from a time standpoint because of all the evaluations. I mean, even the guys that played a little bit last year, which was not meant, there's not many of them, we still got to evaluate them. They're in a new system. So it's, we got ways to do that. Sometimes it's frustrating to me because, you like to move on to scheme and fundamental part of it, but we got to have certain periods of practice where it's mostly just an evaluation type of tool or period to watch our guys with.
You said you had to speed that up from what you learned last year at Jack State. That's to be determined right now?
Yeah, we had last year at Jack State, I think we had over 60 of them, new guys, and I didn't think we did a great job, myself included, of evaluation during camp. And some of it was the quarterbacks weren't live and all that. So there were some lessons we had to learn from that, hey, we got to be ready the first game. And so there are going to be periods of practice that I typically wouldn't go live with in the next couple weeks that we will do that simply because we got to know.
I know that you're not going to announce starting quarterback until closer to the first game.
So what time's the kickoff?
Yeah, until right before kickoff.
2:00. If we have the first possession, you'll know it about 2:02.
But now that we're into camp, going into the season, what is the plan in place for how you're going to determine that and where the competition is right now?
Yeah, listen, I understand that, and I'm the same way. Like if I follow a team, or you usually want to know like who's your quarterback, and so that's I don't mind being asked every day because that's I'm curious too, right? But there's a process. I hate to use that word of how we're doing it. Reps management. We've got 5 guys that we're trying to get reps, and all of them got to get an opportunity to show if they can be the guy. I'm hoping, and I know this, I've said this before, I'm hoping there's more than one. If I have 3 quarterbacks that are good enough to win with, I'll play all 3. I won't pull a guy out for just a mistake, and if he's hot, I'll keep him in there. But it doesn't bother me to rotate quarterbacks if they're good enough to win with. And so that's why I told all of our guys, not just the quarterbacks, prove they're good enough to win with and you'll play. And it's as simple as that. But the quarterback thing, managing so many guys, is always a little bit of a challenge. But because, our pace of practice and we get we get a lot of reps in. I'm talking about a lot of reps in practice. It's a little easier for us to get that evaluated.
Will there be any whittling down that 3 weeks from now you'll go from 5 guys getting reps to maybe 2 or 3?
You know,
Because you're getting closer to the season.
yeah, it's not coach speak, but it could be. It depends on how they play. If they all play really, really well, and I mean that's a good problem to have. If so, I don't have a timeline to shorten it down. At some point, you got to have one guy come out for the first group, right?
Sure.
But now, Mel, maybe you could play 2 quarterbacks at the same time. I've done that before. So.
The evaluation of your players that you're talking about in these first couple of weeks, those periods you break them out in, are those one-on-ones? Are they just about position groups, or do you try to
Both,
do?
yeah, we do. Today we did 10 minutes of one-on-ones, 2-on-2s with wideouts and DBs, and that's some teaching, but a lot of evaluation. We do the team. Team in shorts is not. It's hard to evaluate, but your 7-on-7 stuff, you can do some evaluation there. But our guys are still learning, and like we have a lot of guys that weren't here in the spring, so this was their first practice, and so they're still learning. But today was a good start. But we got a lot of film to watch as coaches to try to fix some of the issues we got right now.
If you talk about playing maybe 3 quarterbacks, maybe 2, or whatever, when you play maybe 3 offenses, I mean, how much will the offense change with the quarterback?
Yeah, good question. Inevitably, usually quarterbacks have some plays they do better or are better at than others. And so I already talked to staff, we already talked about throughout the next 3 weeks, if the quarterbacks all keep elevating and if we have like 3 we think we're ready to play and win with, we're going to find out what of those 3 do the best. Some coaches, wow, well, you worry about when your opponents, every time that quarterback they're going to run just that. They'll have enough variety that you can't just cue in on just 2 or 3 plays that this quarterback does well. But we don't know a little bit of that now, but part of our deal in the next 3 weeks with our quarterbacks is like, okay, which plays are they most comfortable with? What do they do the best? And we'll have that as a part of our mindset going into the season.
What do you think of preseason polls? And are you a coach that uses bulletin board material to motivate your players?
No, not really. I mean, if you're picked last or next to last, like we've been picked last or next to last in the Big 12, you might mention it and say, I think we're going to be a little better than that, and maybe try to use it as some motivation. But I think when the stuff hits the fan and you're in the middle of a tight game in the third quarter and it's going at each other, I don't think at that time you're worried about where you're picked in a poll. You're just worried about you're going to default to your level of training, no matter where you're picked or no matter what people think out of it. So our level of training has to go up because that's where you're going to eventually default to.
Are you married to your practice plan, or do you tweak it as you feel you need to as you go along?
Well, we'll tweak it like I've done in the past where we always have a break in the middle of practice. When we have a break, it's a true break. They can sit down, lay down, eat popsicles, go in the shade, do whatever they want and break. I mean, a break is a break, and it's a true 5-minute break. But then down south, we had to have 2 breaks because it was so hot and humid. We had to break it up in thirds. We only broke it up in halves today, and I don't think we'd have to do it in thirds up here with our weather. But I'll tweak it a little bit accordingly to we need to get more red zone stuff done, or we need to get more one-on-one stuff done, whatever the case. Our practice schedule's over, this is my 28th year. They're similar in a lot of regards, but I'm also like, hey, I'd never thought about this, or hey, these people are doing that. So I'm constantly learning, trying to find a better way to be more efficient. The thing that I don't like to have long, it's like some coaches will just stay there long. I like to get the work done, be as crisp and sharp, and then get off.
Starting a new job with 70 new players on the roster, how do you approach these preseason practices, fall camp, to best prepare yourself for the season?
Well, it's starting a new job with 115 new players, because that's what we got. We got 115 new players. Everybody's new. So there's a lot that are new to Morgantown in West Virginia, but they're all new to the schemes that we're doing now. So, you got to have an idea on how you're going to teach it. Offensively, I've been doing this a long time, so I have idea of what that's supposed to look like. Coach Alley has done it enough years with him. He has an idea what it's supposed to look like. As a head coach, my job is to put it all together and try to get as efficient as possible. And there have been a lot of camps I thought was really good. I thought last year's camp, and I bring up last year's, I was really pleased with it. And then we played awful in the beginning of the year, so I'm like, I better look at it and see what we can tweak. And everything system's a little unique. This is the most unique because, the majority, 90% of our team has not played a lot of football at this level. I mean, anybody, current guys coming back or new guys. And so we got to have that a little bit in our mind, the lack of experience. But if you can play, you can play. And it's our job as coaches to get them ready to play.
Rich, can your offensive line play? What's your evaluation of that?
Yeah, I think we're pretty athletic. We're a little bit. I think we're a little deeper now than we were in the spring. That was an area we had to address a little bit. And it's just so a lot of what we do is so unique to the O-line. Our tempo and some of the stuff we do is even for our new coaches, it's a little bit of an adjustment. Everything's how we practice. It's not for me. I just sometimes forget I've been doing this not just 28 years, but even when I was a coordinator a couple of years. It's 30-some years doing it. So I kind of forget that, hey, half these coaches have not gone through this system either. So I got to be mindful of that, during camp.
Rich, the hardest part of this, learning 115 new names?
Yeah, no question. I didn't think about it. Remember, we used to put the tape on front of the helmet, and I'm like, why do we got to do that? We're around them. We should know them. But I brought this just in case. It's got what year they are and, what position and what number they are. I can recognize the faces now, and I know the positions, but I don't know, for a lot of them, I don't know them as well as I need to know. And that's what part of our, next 20 days is going to be. We're going to spend a lot of time together, and when you're watching film or you're wanting to get on somebody, sometimes when they make a mistake, it helps us learn who they are too, because I'm like, who is that guy? Where's he from? And then we'll spend some time in the evenings when it's a little relaxed and what I call fireside chats. Like, it's not just all the O-linemen. Like, it might be a mix of an O-lineman and a D-lineman, a running back and a DB and a couple coaches or a staff member, and we'll sit down for 15 minutes and just get to know each other. And I love doing that because all of these guys, coaches, staff members, players, they all got unique stories. And so I kind of enjoy the quote-unquote fireside chats as much as anything we do in camp because I don't know all these guys well, but I want to.
Hey, Rich, you said I forget what position, but somebody has to go out first. That's true every position the first day, first week or whatever. When you're starting, how do you decide who's your first line, who's your first corners and safeties, and is it who you think it's going to be? Is it who's earned it, who you have to look at?
Yeah, I think some guys that have played, a little bit of experience, what we've had a little bit, that's, I tell the guys, we got to put some group out there. You got to have 11. I don't even like calling them 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. It should be like group A, B, C, or D or something. But it sorts itself out pretty good. And I tell the guys, don't worry about the depth chart right now. Be worried about getting good enough to win with. You're good enough to win with, you'll play. I don't care if there's 3 guys at that spot or 4, whatever.
The offensive line, it's a very interesting room this year. A lot of experience from different levels of FBS ball.
Yeah, different places, not here. Who? I don't think there's any of them. There ain't a guy on our offensive line started here, is there?
I believe Landon might have had a couple or one last year, but no. But a lot of guys have FBS experience at varying levels. SEC. You've got multiple seniors in their last year of eligibility and upperclassmen. How do you approach putting that together? Is it the best 5 offensive linemen that you find? Is it who fits the offense best? Or how do you move people around positions? What's that like?
Well, we're not, like I said, I'm not worried about who's going out with the first group or second group because they're all getting reps right now. Eventually, in about 2-3 weeks, we can't rep 4 groups with, we got to get it down to 2 groups or hopefully 2.5 groups. But right now, that's part of coaching. You evaluate guys. I want our O linemen to be a little bit more versatile from the standpoint. If you play right guard, you should be able to play left guard. If you play tackle, You should play both sides. If you play center, you can play guard. And we're doing some of that intentionally of moving guys left and right. And I like to have some guys that can play guard and tackle. But you also got to teach fundamentals. And so I'm not going to be – we don't have a game for 30 days. You know, we're just teaching our stuff and try to get better as a football player.
Rich, what's your messaging now to your coaches now that you're done for the day practice-wise? What is your messaging when they're analyzing film in regard to evaluation compared to schematics, lining up and doing the right things? How are they doing that right now?
Yeah, I think we have to be as intentional in evaluation as we are in teaching schemes and fundamentals. So when you get in on that, that's, you know, part of our evaluation is the guy, where is he at today compared to where is he at in 2 weeks from now? Did he learn? Is he making the same mistakes? And so that's where it's, like I said, this, you know, because there's 100 and whatever, 15 of them we have to do that with, it makes camp, every camp is important if you want to call it a camp, but this one more so than any others because there's no returners that we know. You know, there's some guys that played for us at Jack State that I know a little bit more, but they're in, some of them are in a different role here, what have you. So it's good, but that's I mean, it's all we got for the next. It's all ball for the next 3 weeks. You know, we're not, you know, doing anything else. Everything we got, and I think part of it too is our coaches. I don't like to have long meetings, but you got to have meetings. You got to watch film and do all that kind of stuff. But we have to be very intentional that we don't waste our players' time. That when our players are here, we're meeting with them, we're going, and I'm in the middle of everything. You know, I don't call the defense. You know, I trust Zach and his staff, but I'm gonna know what we're doing. I'm going to know everything we're doing on special teams, who's doing it, and then obviously on offense, everything we're doing there. So I like that. Not that I don't trust the coaches, but I like being in the middle of all that stuff. And so we have I don't know if it's different, but when we have staff meetings, we watch film, we do a lot with a lot of coaches together, and we talk about everything. I'm not one to say, well, I don't know about that, and I don't want to hurt the coaches' feelings and bring that up. I mean, it's just – brutally honest with our, you know, we call this, do they have it outside? Is it up there what they call this room? The truth room? Every one of our meeting rooms are the truth rooms. Every one. This one too.
When you're doing evaluating, how much leeway do you give before you have to say, well, we got to move on, we got to, you know, make hard choices? Do you give a little bit of leeway there when you're evaluating?
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't want to just, everybody's going to make mistakes, coaches and players too, so I don't want to just drop a guy in the grease because he, you know, has one bad day. Now, if it depends on what, I mean, if they're loafing or they're soft, now that's got to get corrected right away. So that's the part that we tell our players, listen, you know, the schematic part, if it takes you a while, whatever, but, you know, if you loaf today, you better not be loafing tomorrow. If you're soft, we go pads, and not right now, but we go in pads. If you're soft today, that first day of pads, you got to correct that. So those 2 4-letter words are things we should not be having at any point. And that's part of coaching too.
Do you feel better about your depth in the wide receiver room with what you were able to do?
After one day, no. Half of them are cramped up today. I don't think they're used to the volume. So, I don't know. Portal's still open, right? If we need, I mean, if you're in a portal now, you're probably pretty desperate, right? You're probably like, what? You know, there might be some good ones still out there. I don't know. But I like our group of wideouts, but I think the volume of a first practice was a little bit of a shock to some of them.
When's your first day of hitting?
Huh?
When are your first day of hitting?
Well, we're in shells in 2 days. I think the rule is you got to go 2 days shorts, 3 days shells, and then full pads.
So Saturday? Friday?
Well, what's today?
Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, so tomorrow will be shorts again,
Yeah.
and then tomorrow is Thursday, right? Then Friday's shells, Saturday shells. We don't practice on Sundays.
Monday.
So Monday will be shells, I think, again, and then full pads.
Do you have a gauge now on if everybody, coaches, you even mentioned evaluating them kind of in the spring, fully grasp what you want out of hard edge? Are you at that point now? Because you even mentioned the spring you weren't yet there.
No, I don't. You know, I think we're. Again, I'm saying it without even watching today's practice yet. And again, we're in shorts, and I haven't watched our team. Was anybody loafing? You know, and.
What do you feel like the coaching staff even can 100% call it out
Oh, I think there's no question. I think the staff for sure. You know, because I have enough guys that have been in the system, offense and defense, that kind of know. Like, now I know I said, listen, my standard, or whatever you want to call it, of full speed might be different from theirs. It's always different from the players. The players think they're really running full speed, and then we have to point it out. And ours is probably a little bit higher standard. And I usually that's full speed, and the coaches are sometimes not always match up. But again, I'm probably a little bit more hard on that than them. But their staff is very, very conscientious, and I think our players are too.
Okay, we got one question from Bob. And
You
then
talked a lot about evaluation today. Can you briefly run through the evaluation process you had with Pat White coming? You know, it took 5-6 weeks before he got in and even an injury.
Yeah, how smart am I? You know, he didn't start till after the Louisville game, right? He was split. Pat redshirted the first year because you probably needed that, learn a system, and it wasn't like, nowadays when freshmen got here in June and they were there all summer and learned the schemes. We couldn't even talk to them in the summer, and so it was really hard for any true freshman to play, especially a quarterback. Then the second year, you could see his ability and all that, but we weren't really sure. And he and Adam, I remember him and Adam were going back and forth, and Adam was a starter, but Pat was still playing. And then after the Louisville game, it was like this dude's even faster and better when it's live. And that's a mistake we made. We didn't have a one or two quarterback. QB1 and QB2 weren't live during camp because you want to have them healthy for the season. Well, when you're Pat White and you're live, you're running even faster, and you're even better. It's the same way with Tyler Huff last year at Jack State. And so that was part of, you got to weigh that balance. Okay, you want to give him reps, but you don't want him getting hurt. But did we really know what we had with Pat White until it was live? Probably not. And, after the Louisville game, like, holy cow, this guy's different. And then he continued. The more he played, obviously, the more confident and the experience he got. So that was part of our deal, is that we've got to be able to, our young guys that have some skill and some talent, we can't be so worried about them getting hurt in practice that we don't get a chance to have them show their true self. And that happened again for us last year. So we've been cognizant of that. Our quarterbacks will be more live, all 5 of them, all our quarterbacks in camp than maybe I'm used to, because we've got to get a good hard evaluation on them.
Okay, Mike?
Rich, the guys who are waiting on waivers, can they do anything to make
On their own. And that's very frustrating. I don't mind saying it. The NCAA's, I know, got a big job, and there's a lot of waivers out there. But for all of our guys, there's been similar situations where other players have been in the exact same scenario and have gotten eligibility or gotten injunctions that allow them to play. And so that's where our hope is that, hey, geez, that guy, he has the exact same situation as that guy over here in that state. And that judge either gave an injunction or gave some ruling that allowed them to play. And that's where our hope is with those guys. But they have to work out on their own and do everything on their own until then.